I mean, obviously it's a hypothetical, right? Because the person's not here. But I think whenever you're thinking about any player, it's always the same thing. I think the first thing you have to have is you have to have a strong culture to start with. I think if you would have asked me in 2009 when I took over, in early 2010, my first full year, could the club have handled that type of situation? Probably not. And I say that because you're also talking about the persona off the field and all the other things that would happen, how many people would be around the team, how many more people, and just how much more eyes would be on us, right? And so that would also, you have to have a strong team to be able to withstand that. I think we do. We've had one for quite some time, and our locker room has always been strong. So I think, on the field was never an issue because, I mean, obviously he's one of the greatest players ever. So it would have been easy from that perspective. And I thought, and I always think that when you bring in good players, they always raise the level of everyone else. So, yeah, it was easy from that point of view.
And then just kind of looking into what preseason is going to look like for you, Gotti and Allen returning, how full blow can they go at the start of preseason, and how do you plan on working?
Those guys are still, they're still building towards getting on the field, but they're both close. There's times when a player is out for, say, a week or 3 weeks, let's say, or just say, let's even use a player that pulls a muscle and he's out for, the projection is going to be out for 6 weeks. And all of a sudden the medical department comes to me and says, after 5 weeks, hey, I think the guy's doing really well. I think he's ready to go. I'm always really quick to ask the question and say, look, we don't need to hurry this up because we've just spent 5 weeks trying to get the player to this point. Is an extra week going to give us the all clear, if you will, the 100%? And so I'm not in this big rush to get, I know those guys are going to play a lot this year, but I'm not in this big rush. I want to make sure that there's more to it than just getting them on the field. I want to make sure that when you're out for a whole entire season, like both of those guys were, you have to go back and you have to create a really strong base for those players, because if you don't, usually they're fantastic in the injury that they had, so they're great there, but they wind up pulling a muscle somewhere else or whatever because they don't have a solid foundation. So we're going to take our time making sure that they have that and that they build towards that as the season opens up. I think there's a good chance that one or both could be available for the first game, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I will put them in the team.
Would you say that this offseason was significant for them in terms of the progress that they were able to make compared to maybe other points during the season where maybe there was not like a rush to get them on the field, but you were constantly checking in to see kind of where they were at in relation to the season?
I think the way I'd answer that is I'd say if there's 4 quarters to their, first quarter being surgery, last quarter being getting on the field, and now being available to play, it's that you're talking about the third quarter. I think both those guys made significant progress in that period. It's one part of that is the actual physical part, the operation, how are they responding after they've done some work. So there's that piece, but then there's also the mental piece, like where they feel like, hey, I can do this. Because in the beginning, you're trying to coax them to, hey, start doing this, and they're hesitant because they haven't done it for so long. You're trying to retrain them to do certain things. So I say they made a lot of great progress in that third quarter, and now we're in the fourth quarter trying to get them to be on the field on a regular basis. And this is the next step.
And then to go back to the pursuit of Cristiano Ronaldo, at what point did that start to develop where it was believed to be like a real possibility that he could, like, just when was that kind of process, I guess, identified by Sporting?
I would really say after the first Zoom call, because I'm not going to get into all the specifics, but I will say that we were very direct in the first meeting because we felt that we had really one shot to either keep moving forward or it's over. And so we put our best foot forward in that meeting. And that was more of the player, if you will. When I say the player, meaning playing for our club, this is what that looks like. And then it was, very interested. And then let's start looking at the commercial aspects. And so then subsequently from there, then it was quite a few meetings thereafter. I know it's been reported that we had 2 meetings, but there's a lot more than that.
Any additional questions for Peter? How do you feel about the roster in spring training? Is there any positions you're still looking to fill?
I actually think that, I'm feeling pretty good. We do have one more acquisition. I'm not going to talk about what position right now. We have one more acquisition that we'll be making. We probably have some other announcement that'll come down the pike here of some other players already that are close to being done. So I'll just wait till they're done because I've been in a position where there's some pull out at the last minute. But we had a couple more there, and then there's one other position that we're working on. But I will say I think some of the players in the draft that we picked up, it'll be interesting. Some other players that we're bringing in to help bolster the roster. I'm excited to get working with those guys and see. One is where they're at, but also we think that they have potential, and try to gauge what that ceiling for them might be as well. So I'm excited. And then the fact that I look at Allen and Gotti as it's almost like getting 2 new players back. So that's going to be a great addition back to the team. And I know that they can't wait because they've been out for so long.
We'll get a chance to talk to him a little bit. Just what do you see from him and how his play style fits what you want at that position?
So I did get a chance to speak with him. I have another little meeting with him today. The great thing is that all the guys can speak English, communicate really well. It's a huge plus right off the bat. He knows the position from a tactical perspective on a really good level. He has very good physical qualities in the position as well. He's got a good frame for the position, and he's got bite, which you need in that part of the field. And he also can play as a central defender as well. Looking forward to seeing him on the field and how he adapts and fits into the team and what that time frame is going to look like.
Do you expect it will be kind of a deep line playmaker sort of in that role?
He's a 6. He's a 6. That's what he is. He's a defensive midfielder. He can play. He can also play as an 8. But I think he's a 6. And again, he can also play central defender.
Remy Valterra was the Iron Man last year and made some big contributions specifically in the 6. I know there's been a lot of debate back and forth of what his best position is, and he can play both the 6 and the 8. Going into this preseason now, where will you look to really implement him within this team, given that he has been very flexible?
He did a really good job at filling in at the 6 for sure. But at the end, in our system, he's an 8. And so, I commend him for the fact that you have to have a good attitude to play other positions than maybe what you in your mind think is the position you want to play. And so the fact that he was able to take on that responsibility with, open-mindedness, he was engaged, was focused, and always gave everything was tremendous. And so what it does is it helps us because you have multiple players able to play different positions, which gives us, different ways to play against other teams based on maybe some of the things that we could do against another team, or if there's something that we would like to nullify on their team, we can move some guys around because they have certain qualities, and that really, really helps a lot.
With all the injuries that, given all the injuries that this team faced early on in the season last year, I know that injuries can come up for a variety of reasons, but is there anything that you and your team have identified going into preseason to maybe mitigate that? I don't know.
I don't think you can, there's not a ton you can do except for one specific thing. And that is, and I wouldn't say that this was the problem last year. But I'm speaking now through experience as a player, and then also, going to my 15th season here at this club. I've never experienced it as a player or a coach ever, a player that comes in the preseason and is completely unfit, and then they go through their season and they never have any injury and everything works out fine and they play at a good level. Never seen it. I have seen really talented players who are average fitness be able to survive a season. Maybe not play regularly, have an injury here or there, but survive because of their talent. And so it's always been, it's not like all of a sudden this is a new thing, but I was very clear at all the exit interviews last year with all the players that we always provide a off-season training program, and that it is imperative that they all follow it to a T. And if they don't and they want to do something different, then they just better make sure that they are fit as a fiddle, because if they're not, two things. One is they put themselves in a really bad position coming in the preseason when it comes to getting on the field. And number two is we will already have by Monday, I should say Tuesday, identified if there are any of those players. I'm hoping there's none. And if there are, they will be doing extra work throughout the weeks so that we can build that foundation for them before they actually get a lot of real playing time. Now, you have to remember, too, you have players that are coming in that are new. And for them, it's a little different story because they don't know what to expect. So my expectation is, or my experience tells me, there'll be a few players that will come in that maybe aren't up to the level that they need to be, and we'll work with them. It's not a punishment. It's just trying to make sure that they're prepared for an MLS season.
Last season, ended the year with Tim Melia injured. John is the number one that brought all three goalkeepers back. Who do you see as the number one in that position group, and is this kind of John's moment to step forward?
It's a good question, but I would paint the question across the entire team. And I'll give you the easiest way for me to answer the question. I've been with Zeus. I think this is Zeus' 14th or 15th season. Anybody know? 14. Okay, so it's 14. What? 15, right? So see, I was there. It's his 15th season. And so you can imagine how many battles I've been through with Zeus. So I drafted him, right? And I've coached him all these years. And we've been through a lot of battles, and we've won a lot of those battles. So I'm not going to, when it comes to what my expectations are for any player on the field, I'm not going to give Zeus any passes, even though it's his 15th season. What I will do is that there's two things. One is I probably will give him a little bit more leeway. If he makes some mistakes here or there, has a bad game, I'm not just going to all of a sudden pull the plug on the guy. At the same time, he deserves a different level of attention in that if we play a game, I might give him an extra day to recover that I wouldn't give the guy who's 25 years old. It's just, it only makes sense. That's just common sense. But the most important thing is that there's a lot of guys I have a relationship with. There's a lot of guys that I've, again, been battles through with them as well. And I obviously know a lot about them as players. And there's some that are coming in that we think can help us, but I don't know them all that well yet because I got to get in between the white lines, and that's where you really find out a lot. But when I come in the preseason, I come in with my mind wide open. If somebody steps up and starts playing really well and they win a spot, they win a spot. So I don't go in with this preconceived notion right now like, hey, this is the goalkeeper, I know everybody can play these positions, but it's up to them to now show that they're the best guy for that position, and they'll give us the best chance week in and week out to get the desired result against each opponent.
Peter, just kind of on a different note, what did you end up doing for the holidays, and did you enjoy your time off throughout the break, and then was it good to have everybody come back and have that first meeting with the team just after the break?
The off season is a really challenging thing for the staff, and it's because it's when you have the ability to start to evolve your roster. And so, there's a lot of decisions to be made, first of all. Then you're actually looking at players, you're doing conversations with them, you're talking with agents. So there was a lot of that for me. And you can imagine the Ronaldo, there was a little bit more involved in there. But my biggest objective is to try to get out of town, to do a little bit of recharging of the batteries, if you will. My other thing is that at that point, I'm actually looking to get away. But the problem is when I get away, then I'm bored and I'm ready to get back. So it's kind of a catch-22, if you will. It was good. But yeah, we had our first meeting today. And I always enjoy that first meeting because it's an opportunity for me it has nothing to do with playing in their positions or anything. It all has to do with what it's to be a member of Sporting Kansas City. And I think that kind of sets the tone for the upcoming season. And so I also like getting a chance to see everybody, and, haven't seen them in a while. I actually enjoy seeing them as opposed to during the season. Kidding. But it's also nice to get out of the routine a little bit, driving here every day and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was good. But actually excited to get back and get started. Really looking forward to it.
One final question for you. Vahe Gregorian from the Stars wrote the story on Pele's legacy, especially here in North America and the U.S. Didn't know if you had any memories of a youngster growing up in New Jersey of Pele playing for the Cosmos and the impact he's had on the sport.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it. So I was very fortunate. Grew up in Jersey. I used to go watch the New York Cosmos play quite regularly. And at that time, a lot of people don't know this, but the Cosmos beat the European champion in a friendly match 6-1. That time, the Cosmos were like the best team in the world. They had some of the greatest players, and at that time, arguably the greatest player in the world in Pelé. And so, yeah, he was my idol growing up. I got a chance to, before the 94 World Cup, I got a chance to sit in front of the U.S. Senate with him and I. A great picture. Signed my jersey, which was number 10 at the time when I played for the World Cup. That was his number when he played. And I spent probably an hour with him. And then I subsequently wound up doing a little bit later, maybe about a year later, I did a video with him. And so I was fortunate to not just meet him, but to actually spend some time with him. And he was a tremendous human being. He was a great player. And unbelievable for soccer, because he put soccer on the map. Not just in this country, but I think internationally, he took the game to another level. And so sad to see him go, but you know, his legacy will live on forever in the soccer world, especially. But I also think just the human being that he was, tremendous guy, really was.